Morning S1. So I'm just going to talk you through your lesson for the week, okay? So the plan is that we're going to just do a little bit of revision on the work that you did 2 weeks leading up to the Easter holidays and the week that you've just had coming back after it. So it's all in decimals and it's things that you've already covered. So looking at decimal values and then being able to apply those operations to decimals. The plan is just to really practice and consolidate that previous learning, okay? All of you should become more confident working with decimals, and that comes from your practice. Most of you will be able to complete the main tasks, and then some of you will be able to complete the extension task, and some of you might need to go in and do that consolidation learning, right? I'm going to have you do a small quiz this week. I'm going to post that during your tutorial time on Wednesday through Teams. It'll be a form, and I just need you to answer it as best you can, okay, really honestly. And what that does is it allows me to see how well you're getting on with the work and whether or not we need to do a bit more practice or if we need to go back the way and maybe do a bit more revision, or if we can move on and look to do something new. It'll still be on decimals, but just looking to do something new with them. Okay, so as you can see, we've got your numeracy ninjas in, just keeping that consistent, nice wee starter task. Okay, your first task after that is then identifying decimals. You've already done this, okay, similar style questions. You should be able to do it. If not, I'm going to go through a small tutorial on this as well as task 2, which is adding and subtracting decimals, making sure we're setting up the sums correctly, looking at them in context, and then the same for task 3, which is multiplying and dividing decimals. If you manage to get onto that and finish it up, then there's an extension task down the bottom, okay, where everything's again in context questions, where you've got to make the decision whether it's an addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. You can use a calculator for this, and then just do your working at the side. Okay, so we'd just be looking for you to do that work over here. Okay. Got a bit of a problem solving as well. This is a really good app called Brilliant. It's an app for your phone or your iPad, whatever you want to download it onto. It's also a decent website. It's got daily problems, but it's also got little courses that just really help you improve your mathematical thinking, okay, your problem solving skills, and that critical thinking that you need to be able to approach problems. It's really good. Have a look at it and consider downloading the app and maybe challenging yourself to a problem a day. Okay, again, if any of this work is too tricky, we have got these consolidation tasks on the right hand side. Hopefully they load up. There they are. Okay, so just some standard place value followed by adding and subtracting. Okay, and then your last consolidation task, which is helpful for anybody that's doing even the decimals. Okay, it's just looking at our times tables. The better we are at our times tables, the easier it is for us to do our long multiplication and also to do division. That's a really key, important part of division. If we don't know our times tables, then that becomes a lot more difficult. Okay, so that's all your work there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through some examples of each of these tasks. Alright, just in my notes. Okay, so task 1, which was identifying the numbers, okay, the decimals represented by the value. What we've got here, okay, is that this little square block here represents 0.1, and this big block here, when we've got 10 of them, then that is equivalent to 1. So 10 times 0.1, okay, that gives us this value of 1. So we want to write down the numbers that are represented here. So we can quite clearly see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. Each of these represents 0.1, so that means I have 0.4, okay. I'm just writing down the answer below it, that's absolutely fine. Question 2, what we can see again, we can either count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or we can recognise that that is just one off of a whole. Either way, what we're left with is 0.9. Okay, just writing the answer on underneath it. You can do the same on your OneNotes. Okay, here we've got our large piece which represents one whole. Okay, it's 10 small bits, and then we've got these 3 small bits as well, which represents 0.3. Okay, meaning that altogether, the value of this decimal here is going to be 1.3. Question 4, very similar. This is worth 1. It's just stacked on top of each other. Okay, this is actually worth 1, and this is also worth 1. It's just to save ourselves space, and that's how you'll probably see it in your task. And then again, we're just counting up my small bits, which is 5, meaning that there I've got 0.5. So 1, 2.5, meaning altogether we have 2.5. Well, that's how we do that bit, right? Working back the way, so we want to draw neat sketches, okay, like above of the following numbers. So this time, instead of trying to figure out what the decimal is represented, we're now drawing what our decimal is. So that's small pieces, meaning that I need 6 blocks this size. I don't mind how you want to do it. I'm just going to draw it as a block of 6 like this, a 2 by 3 block. 5, 6. Okay. Similar for 1.2. Now 1.2, so we need to think about this one. That is the equivalent of this here. So I need one of them. Okay. I need one of them. I'm just going to draw that out again. It's a bit easier for me because I've got the squares on my notes. But again, we just want to make it purpose that is worth 1. Okay, I know that's worth 1. And then I've got 2 small bits as well. 1, 2. Okay, so that there is worth 1.2. Right, this time I've got 4. Right, so I'm going to draw it down here, and the reason for that is because I'm just going to stack my drawings. So I don't have to do 4 huge separate ones, just like in the drawings on my exercise. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Okay, and that is representing my 4 here, but I've still got this 0.7. That represents my wee small bits. So again, I need to draw them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now I've got that nice representation of 4.7. Task 2, just adding and subtracting the following. This is the same for any addition and subtraction, okay, whether it's whole numbers that don't include decimals, okay. We set them up. What's really important about the decimals is though that their decimal points, you will notice on both examples, are lined up. That's really, really important, and I'm going to make a bigger deal of that when we go on to do question 3. Always start at this right hand side here, okay, looking to add up our columns or subtract our columns. In this instance, we're doing an add. So 7 plus 1 is 8. 5 plus 6 is 11. Okay, that means I'm going to have to put down my 1 unit almost, and then, but it's 1/10, and then my whole unit that I've got left over, I need to put it up here so that I can include it into that calculation. 3 plus 2 plus 1, 6. Really important, just like in the sum bit up here, okay, our decimal point's in a line, so it must go in there, 6.18. Okay, and that makes sense. If we think about it in terms of money, £3.57 plus £2.61, £6.18, that sort of sounds like a sensible answer, okay? The decimal point isn't going to make it 61.8, and it isn't going to make it, okay, 0.618. That's going to be far too small. Okay, over here, again, we're just going to start on this right-hand side, but this time we've got to subtract. Okay, again, just lining up that decimal point. Okay, you could put the decimal point in first if you want to do that, or you can do it at the end. Either way, it needs to be in line. So 8 subtract 3 is 5. 3 subtract 4 is going to give me a negative number, okay? So I don't really want to end up with a negative number, so I'm going to go over to the 6, which is the next number, and I'm going to bring that down to 5, and I'm going to exchange those units over into the tenths and make that 13. 13 take away 4 gives me the positive number, which is 9. And that's much easier and much nicer for us to deal with in terms of our adding and subtracting. So 5 take away 2, and then we've got 3.95. Alright. Question 3, it's not set up for us, but we need to make sure that we set it up in a chimney sum just like we have done in questions 1 and 2. Okay. Really important, I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again, is we need to make sure those decimal points are lined up. Okay. So I'm going to do my 2.87, like so, and then it's 13.1. Okay. As you'll see, okay, we've got a little gap here, alright. We don't need to worry about that too much, okay. Technically, we can actually put a wee 0 in here, okay. And that's because 13.1 is the same as 13.10, and what it does is it just lines up our columns, and that means that we've got no hundredths. So this has 7 hundredths, and this has no hundredths, right, which is why we didn't have a value there. So it just becomes 7. But if we're worried about that little gap, then we can just put that 0 in to help us with the calculation. You don't have to put it in there, okay? You can feel free to ignore it. That's also fine. But the point is, there's no hundreds there, and we're just then going to do our sum as normal. 8 plus 1 is 9. I've got my decimal point there. I'm going to put it in now. 2 plus 3 is 5, and then I've got that 1 plus nothing there as well. Very similar to what we had a minute ago. And we're now left with 15.97. Again, really key. Look what I've done with those decimal points. Okay, they're all lined up in a nice, neat line. Same applies for our subtraction. Right, I'm going to just set it up with my decimal points in line again. I've got 12.56. Okay, subtract 7.93. 7.93. Okay. So 6 take away 3, because we're starting over that right hand side again. Okay, it's 3. 5 take away 9. Not what I'm going to end up with that negative number again. I'm not keen on that, so I'm going to come over to my 2. I'm going to change that to a 1, and I'm going to get this to become 15. 15 take away 9 is 6. That's nicer, it's positive. Again, just putting in that decimal place. Okay. 1 take away 7. Can't really do that. It becomes negative, and that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to take this 1 over. Treat it as 11. Do 11 take away 7, which gives us 4. So we now have the answer of 4.63. Again, really important, look how I've set it up. I've got my decimal points all in a nice line. Okay, I'm starting on this right hand side as I mentioned before. Every single time I've stacked it so that the columns are nice and neat, and it makes it easier. Right, this is what I'm looking for you to do in your OneNote. I want you to set it up, the work in. Don't do it in your head, don't do it mentally. Set up this sum and then crack on with it once you've got it all nice and neat, like so. Right, and then the last task, okay, is multiplying or dividing. Similarly, right, we are going to, for our multiplication, we are going to start at this right hand side over here. If you struggle with your times tables, remember I've put that consolidation task in where I want you to write out your times tables, okay. The key thing to remember is that they're repeated addition. So your 3 times table would be 3 times 1 equals 3. And the next time I'm just going to be adding 3 on again. So 3 times 2 would be equal to 6. And then I just need to add on another 3. 3 times 3 equals 9. And so on and so forth. So then it become 12, 15, just adding on 3 every single time. For the 4 times table, we're adding on 4. For the 5 times table, adding on 5, so on and so forth. So if you get yourself a bit mixed up, this is a good way to think about it. Write out your times table at the side, okay, and then use that to help you. Well, back over here then, right, we're going to be doing 4 times 8, okay, which is 32. So I put down my 2. I need to carry the 3 up, okay. 4 times 6, which is 24, but I need to add that 3 on. That becomes 27, Again, we need to carry that 2, and I'm just trying to put it into the right place so it's in that column. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Now I can carry the 1 and write that up, or we can just write it down because we've got nothing else to multiply and add it on. So we just put our 14 in properly. Right? Again, similarly, right, really look in, okay, for that decimal place to be in the right place, okay. It's always nice and line. This has got 2 after the decimal place, so this is going to end up with 2 after the decimal place. That's how it works with multiplying. Okay, we want to make sure that our line is nice and neat. Okay, again, it's the same with dividing for question 2. That decimal point is going to be in there, right? It's nice and neat, it's in line. You can do it at the front of a problem or at the end of the problem. Dividing, we need to be good at our times tables, okay? The reason we need to be good at our times table is because we're basically figuring out how much we can get into our times table. So I've done the 3 one here actually, so what we're going to do is like 3 goes into 5. How many times? Well, it can only go in once. We can only get here, because if we try to take another 3, we're going to end up at 6. So what that means is, right, we've got 1, 3, and that comes from our 3 times 1 gives us 3, and we've got 2 left over. Okay, and we carry that 2 over onto the 6 to make it 26. Again, we're looking at the 3 times table. 3 times what? How many 3s can we get into 26? Well, if I go down to 3 times 8, that's going to give me 24. If I was to put another 3 on, that would take me up to 27, which is too much. So we have 8 that go in, and we end up with 2 left over because we've got 24 and that we need 26, so it leaves us with 2 left over. Just going to rub this out. And then, how many 3s go into 27? Well, that's 3 times 9, so 3 9s must go into 27. And we've got that answer there of 1.89. And then last up, we've got 2 last examples to go through with you, and this is just looking at you being able to set up this type of sum in this kind of manner. Again, it's really important, right, that you're setting up your sums, you're showing your working. I've got my 7.51, I'm doing multiplied by 2, and I'm just setting it up nice and neat. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 5 is 10, put down the 0, we need to carry the 1, 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Again, really important, putting that decimal place in the right place. Okay, it's lined up nice and neat, just as all the previous other examples. Question 4, we've got to set this up as well. We've got a division. Okay, we've got a division. 18.95. Okay, and it's being divided by 5. Again, it's really helpful to have our times tables. It allows us to be able to figure out how many 5s go into a number and helps us to do our divisions. When we're not good at our times tables, when we struggle a little bit with them, then we can use a times table square to help us, or we can look to write them out down the side. I'm thinking about the 5 times table, and just lots of little techniques that can help us with it. So how many 5s go into 1? Well, none. Right, that's not going to help me. So I'm wanting to think about it as being 18. So how many 5s go into 18? I've got 5, 10, 15. So that's 3 5s. Because if I was to go another 5, that would take me over 18, which I don't want to do. But 3 5s give me 15, meaning I have 3 left over. Okay, so because 3 times 5 is equal to 15, that means, okay, I've got 3 of them out, and then I'm left over, okay, I'm left over with 3, because that's what we've got. So I've made it into 39. Again, thinking about the 5 times table, well, it's going to be 7 times 5 gives us 35. That's the closest we're going to get, meaning that 7 go in, and I've got 35, which means for 39, we've got 36, 37, 38, 39, we've got 4 left over. So this becomes 45. And then thinking about that again, 9 times 5, well, that's 45. So that must mean that 9 5s go into 45. So then I've got 9. Remember, really important, I've said it already, I'll say it again, we want to make sure that that decimal place is lined up nice and neat. Okay, so we've got that 3.79. Right, it's not 37.9, that doesn't make sense. Okay, 18.95. Right, if we divide that by 5, we're expecting it to be roughly around the 3-4 mark. Okay, we've got to use sensible thinking about where that decimal place is, right, and just using a little bit of logic to figure it out. Okay, so that's how we go through everything. You can pause the video, you can stop it, you can use it to help you. You can also use Mr. McMartin's videos from the previous weeks. There's lots of help out there. If you're still struggling, okay, remember I will be on Monday morning. There's also the tutorial Wednesday. During your tutorial on Wednesday, I'm going to post your reassignment, and then I want you to get it completed by Friday. It won't be a lot of work, but it will be on the things that you've already covered, and we'll just be looking to see how much of it that you can and can't do, and what do I need to spend a little bit more time teaching you. Okay, so hope that's clear, and I will speak to you